Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
You've done a man's job, sir. I guess you're through, huh?
Finished.
Hello and welcome. It is week 5 on the spinner. In a true and just world, this will be the last work week of the spinner. I can't imagine it taking all of this week to do. Today, my first job is to secure the windshield down to the cab. And to do that, I need to beef up this one connection right here. I need to make more of a lip, more of a ledge right here for the back rail of the windshield to rest on. It's a bit of a dicey thing by itself, and I could stand to have just a little bit more of a ledge for it to rest on. So that's why I'm doing that. So I want to get these windows up and out of the way because I need to use the Demon CA, and I want to make sure that it is nowhere near any of these. I think I'm going to throw some tape on them just to doubly protect it, but I just need to create just a little bit of a wider lip right there. So let's get that glued in place. Okay, now you can see I got this additional little lip put on here, and that's, as I said, just to reinforce that top edge. I'm going to end up putting a decorative white or a decorative wider band along the top of that joint from the outside to kind of make up the difference on the unevenness of this piece right here. So next step, got everything inside the cabin the way I want it, at least everything that I need to reach from the top. Everything else that I can reach through the inside, I can maybe make a change here or there, but I cannot make any big wholesale changes to what's going on inside there now as soon as I put that windshield down. So let's get that and some epoxy and do the deed. Yeah, I was just test fitting the windshield, and I can see that I need to paint this thing black. There may be bits of it that I'm able to see afterwards or after the windshield is in, and if I don't paint it black now, it's going to haunt me. So let me paint that black and let that dry, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, I think I'm ready to glue in the windshield, and that's a big momentous thing. So I want to make sure that I have got all of my I's crossed and my T's dotted before I get ready to do that. Just pulling some tape out here so that I can have it ready. What I want to do is, when this goes down, it kind of has to go down into this groove first, and then it actually has to be pulled tight across the back, which is why I wanted that extra strip there. So I'm going to put a bead of epoxy down in there. I really don't want that to get too dirty because I cannot clean off that dash once it's done. Once this thing is down, whatever's happening on that dash is going to be there forever. So I'm not going to be able to get into it, so I don't want to slop anything around that. I would almost rather not put any epoxy in the center there rather than risk it slopping up on the windshield. Now this windshield is plastic. It is PETG. It is vacuum formed. It is never going to be 1,000,000% crystal clear. There are deformities, there are divots, there are shadow lines, there are scratches. There are things you are going to see, you are going to notice, imperfections. The only way to get around that, it would be to have this blown in optical clear glass, which nobody has the time or the money to do. So we're just going to make it the best we can. There's no reason to, treat it roughly because of that, but knowing that you can polish and you can spit shine and you can do this until the end of time, and it will still only get so clean. You have a duty of care to make sure that you don't trap any stupid thumbprints underneath it, things like that. And as I've said, once this is in, I can clean the outside of it all day long. I just won't be able to touch anything on the inside. So I think what I'd like to do is to epoxy just the sides here to make sure that those are in place. Then once all this is down and set and dry and clean and happy and good and yay, I will come back in with a fine bead of black tulip and make it look like a window gasket just along that front edge, and that's going to hide the gap that you can see, and hopefully add some adhesion to the windshield. Now once this is down, I want to run a piece of tape that way, to hold the shape, and then I'm going to run another piece of tape this way to hold this shape while that epoxy sets up. So wish me luck. I think we're ready to go down. Oh, and this morning before I closed this up, I did retouch some of the bits of the Molotov inside here that had gotten dulled down by that clear coat of flat that I put on it. So I put a new shine on those, and I'm just making sure that these pieces are where they want to be before I do the once and forever epoxying. Alrighty, the windshield is in, for better or for worse. It's like setting a broken leg. It's either being set in the right position and when you put the cast on it, or it is being permanently disfigured by setting in the wrong position when you put the cast on it. So one can hope that the everything is in the happy position, and we're going to let that all set up and cure, and I'm going to take care of some errands, and then I will be back post lunch, I think. I semi-lied. I went ahead and put in the black tulip, at least a first pass on the black tulip, so that could be drying at the same time as the epoxy. And building this thing, you get struck with the idea that this is a fairly symmetrical kit. The kit is different. I'm saying different from the design. The kit is very well a very good reproduction of the design. The design is asymmetrical. Not only do you have this thing off the side, but you have weird little details like how this piece comes out and there's a corner here, but there is no piece of it that looks the same on this side. You would figure to make it symmetrical that there would be another little corner piece there. And you know, you have to decide whether those things bug you or not. You take the design, you know, that's the design. You can't really fight with it unless you want to go off script and do your own variation. So you take it as it goes, but it's just weird that it has this little cornered piece here that isn't matched over here, and how this opening of the frame, this is squared off on this side, but it comes to a point here. It's just weird. You just have to live with it. But we've got the profile of the windshield in. We've got it conforming to the basic shape that I want it to conform to, and I am letting all of the epoxy that is holding that windshield in and the tulip down along the front to heal and cure, and we will come back after a while and see how well it dried. Okay, this windshield is setting up very nicely. I've put a second pass on the tulip along the bottom. Before I take all of the tape off, though, I want to fill in this gap, and I'm going to use the old trusty Bondo for it. So I'm just going to lay that in that gap right there and even it off. I've made sure it does not touch this door so that it doesn't stop the door from opening, but there's just this big old cavern here that needs to be filled in. Oh, so happy to report that the windshield is in. Doors open and close around the windshield just as they are supposed to. A little bit of roughness here still because this is where I am puttying in that seam, and I am keeping the windshield clean next to it. But I think what I would like to do now is to get some really high grit sandpaper. Get it really hot. This is 320 here, and just touch this with that. And then we will see. I am wanting to take, let me take this tape off just for the time being. I'll put new tape back over it, but I want to see that nice clean line there. Okay, what this is going to allow me to do is see, let me dust this off. This is just powder from the sand, from the Bondo. Clean that off. Now, as I said, this is PETG plastic. This is never going to be clean as, you know, optical grade glass is going to be. But I'm thinking that I want to take, if I could find it here. Yeah, here's a strip of the really thin stuff here. And just put that over that seam and then paint it. Paint it blue, and it'll match in with the rest of what's going on here. Just all the way across the top there. But we have doorage. We have doorage on that side. Now, something Randy did that I need to see whether it's something it's worth my time to do is he finished off this edge here with a piece of L bracket to dress up that edge so you didn't see the edge of the plastic window or the edge of the windshield. I don't know that I need to do that. It's not screaming out for it, but I'll have to think about that. Let me ponder that, whether it's worth it. I would need to get a much smaller piece of it than what I've got here. I don't want a really wide piece of that, but maybe something that would dress up the edge and cover over the edge of the plastic there. So I've got this accent strip here that I want to glue over the top of this frame, covering this joint and ending up over there. And it's CA, I know, to be very gentle with, but I'm just going to hold it down and tack it in place, and then we'll paint it blue. Okay, kids, we are ready. We have painted, we have patched, we have sanded, we have taped. We are ready now for a gloss coat that will go on under the decals. And really the only things I need to protect are the windshield, the side windows, and these top windows. I threw a piece of tape on here simply because it was easy to get to. But any of the white frosted plastic, I'm not really worried about getting any of the satin on, because that, like these guys here and what's on the front wheels, not really worried about that getting a clear coat on them, because they're white. I mean, they're not clear plastic to start with, or clear resin to start with. So I think we're ready now to put a good clear coat on this so that we can make with the decaling. And just like it's, you know, if this were a real cop car, what I want to do is I want to gloss this, decal it, flat coat it. I have to decide whether I want to flat coat it or satin coat it. I think I want to flat coat it after all that. And then I put the weathering on. And there's going to be weathering that happens on these little I'm going to call them anti-grav repulsors or bumpers or whatever. There's weathering that happens there. There's going to be some very subtle black streaking on things for, you know, wear or smoke or whatever. But that all happens after the decals go down, because it's entirely possible that some of that would happen over top of the decal. So now I'm just going to take this outside while it is the what I call the heat of the day, which these days is not very warm at all. And I could set it outside and give it a good coat and a spin and all this kind of stuff, and hit it with a clear coat And that means tomorrow we're doing decals. Morning, everybody. It's Friday. I almost said it was Friday. It's not Friday, but hopefully it will be the last work day on the spinner. It is Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. We are going to be putting decals on today. One of my favorite things to do. Now, the last thing I did before I put the decals on this morning, I realized I still needed to paint these guys in. These have a clear yellow and then just a little bit of clear red at the bottom on both sides. And it's one of the nice things about mixing and matching and picking your references is not those aren't on all of the spinners. Some of them are on. I think I may have gotten that from a full scale spinner example or a reference, but I like it. I'm putting it on there. Buffed up the windshield a bit today, put some of the black tulip across the inside of that top edge that you can't see because my hand is out of frame. It's this edge right up here. I've put the some black tulip just in that leading edge there to act like a gasket. And I'm getting ready to put down Randy's decals. And Randy's decals for this kit are spectacular. You would think looking at a sheet like this, oh no, I've got to trim out all of the flash and all of the carrier film, but no, he has had these printed in a professional manner to the point where there is a very, very tight margin around the decal itself as far as the carrier film. Plus, you can obviously tell he's printed some of these things in white that need to be printed in white, and that makes for a glorious print job. So I have no worries that the yellow stripe, for example, does not have white behind it. I mean, that it's going to go on this back bumper. And this is the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do this big old decal back here because it's one of those deals that if you don't get it right, you might as well not go too much further on the rest of it. I have a secret weapon though, and that is I have 2 sets of decals. I don't know if keep this between you and me. I don't know if Randy intended to give me 2 sets of decals or whether they just stuck together. But there are 2 sets of decals, and should I not need them, I will be happy to mail them back to Randy because I know something like this can't be cheap to produce, and better him having it to pass on to the next man down the line to build this rather than sitting in a drawer at my house and just going wasted. So if I don't need them, if it turns out that I can do everything without touching that second sheet, I'll just mail it back to Randy. Here we go. Let's get rid of all of that. As you can see, I'm nervously babbling. I've got my paper towel out. I've got my dish full of warm water out. I have sprayed this with a semi-gloss to give it a nice thing to stick to. I am wrapping this around to make sure everything is happy and healthy. And I think what I need to do is pull out some Q-tips. And there are not any angles that I would consider, dangerous on this that I would need to get any Solvaset or any decal film, the decal softener. It's not like I'm wrapping around, any tight angles. All the angles here are fairly flat, so I'm not going to trouble myself with that stuff. But as I say, I am nervously, you know what? I think I need to jack this up a little bit higher just for this decal here so that I can get a good straight-on view of it. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've reset the spinner up on a taller roll of transfer tape so that I can have this up at a better angle as I go to put this on. So, nothing to it but to stick it in the water and pray. Okay, I don't know how smart an idea this is, but I am doing this live on camera. Also, I am semi-distracted today because it's another one of those days where I am being held hostage by a delivery that is going to require my signature, so I have to be mindful that when the doorbell rings or the knock comes at the door that I need to jump up and take care of that. tried doing this from the center, it was not cooperating. So let's try it from the edge and see if that works better. These are remarkably robust decals. They do not split. They do not do any of the things that you would. They're not tearing. They're not cracking. I don't know how old these decals are, but they're certainly not brand new. Let's get some water on here. Brush that into place. Now we'll see how well it's going to conform to that angle. Oh, lovely. That's doing loveliness. Let's pull it up here on this side. Now, I'm not opposed to trimming this if necessary, so we're just going to push it up in place, and if it overlaps, then it overlaps, and I can get a sharp utensil after it. But look at that. That's laying down just marvelously. Yeah, let me, it's a little high there. That's the nice thing about designing your own kit, isn't it, Randy? It's easy to make your own decals fit it. Just a little bit iffy on that corner, just on the where it turns the sharp corner. That's the only spot where it puckers a little bit. Get some moisture. I don't want to get that yellow too wet on that light, because that is where I just painted it, and it's a water-based paint, and I don't want to pull the paint off. Okay, it's not going to scooch. It's not going to scooch without ripping, so let's do a quick pass here. Yeah, just on that corner there is the only place it puckers. I need to replace this blade with a brand new sharp one so that I can make a razor thin split, or cut a dart in the decal there so that it will lay flat. And if I do it in the yellow area, it will overlap on itself and you'll never see that dart. So let me quick do that. Toss the blade. You know, I found myself getting very wasteful lately. I am tossing blades and Q-tips and toothpicks with reckless abandon, and I can remember a time back in art school when I had a single matte blade that lasted, it must have lasted most of my senior year with one single blade. Okay, let's I'm going to put a nice, okay, there's that dart. I'm going to cut a similar dart back here. And let me see if I can grab, oh, my reach has exceeded my grasp. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. My handy Paragraphics mini ruler. But what it does is it gives me a brilliant, flat, metallic, straight edge that I can lay up against this decal here, push it into the corner, and trim against it. Look at that. Cut that much off. And then the rest of it will lay flat now. Okay, happiness reigns. nut, put that in place. There you go. Okay, well, you don't need to see me doing the rest of this. It's all fiddly work after here. Okay, so I'm laying out the decals. I've printed some handy references here so that I can have that without having to keep checking the monitor for it. Easier just to print one out. Easier just to print one that I have to train myself against my own pet peeve, and that is people who say printed out something. Of course you've printed it out. It's not still in the computer. It has been printed. But the only ones I had to trim significantly are these big old no-step decals that go right next or go right behind the mirror, but on top of the door here. And the reason I had to trim them is due to the geometry of the window going, the window frame coming up out of the door. It's just not something I think you're going to know in advance what that is going to be. So I went ahead and trimmed both of those, and once I got one fit, I mirrored it on the other side. And now we're ready to, I've got everything that I need laid out here for this driver's side. So I'm going to just start going from back to front and just start putting these guys down. Okay, this is coming along very nicely. It's important and something that has so many curves and bells and whistles to try to find a straight line to align your decals with. And nice, thankfully the door has this nice straight angle along the bottom and corner here that I could align these to it. The 44 I just kind of eyeballed. This is, we have a problem of trying to make straight text go around a curve. So you kind of pick a point and you say that's going to be straight, and everything else kind of flies off of that. If it had been printed with the curve kind of baked into it, that would have gone down a little bit easier, but I'm not going to complain. What the heck. So I've got some areas in here. There's a decal that goes right there that looks like Randy had printed. He printed himself as opposed to having been done on the same company, because it's not on the same sheet with the other decals. So I think this may be something he ran off himself. And luckily I got extras of that too, because it looks like it was printed on white inkjet paper, and I didn't trim it out before I stuck it in the water, and I should have. So I picked up the second copy of that, and I trimmed that to the decal, and I'm soaking that now, but that'll go there. And now I'm working in this area. And there you have the driver's side decals down, starting from the back and going towards the front. I know why this is existing now. This was the one that was looked like it was printed on a home printer that had to be retrimmed. There is a decal in the set that says Retro 25 with the caution stripe, but it is way too big, and I think Randy realized that after he got it back. That's why he made a secondary one. But that's all the decals. Now there are name badges that say Spinner that are on the decal sheet, but I'm not going to be using these because I've got those nice little cast pieces that I painted with the Molotow to look like chrome. One of them goes here, and I'm going to use that rather than this decal. One of them goes on each door, and then one goes straight here on the back, and there's a back piece there. So I will not be using the decals for that. And I've got one left. I've checked and rechecked and double checked. I have not seen that I am miscalculating anywhere, but I have an extra strip, an extra caution strip, and I'm thinking I'm going to put it on the bottom, just somewhere on the bottom, because, and I might even cut the Retro 25 off of this and use that strip, because I've got two that are basically the same size, and I'm thinking that I may want to gang those up and maybe put them around the or near the chase lights, the waggy lights on the bottom. I'm going to let this dry, obviously. I am not going to move anything, and then I will come back and start doing the other side. Now this is that one that I had to trim down to size to make it fit, and I think I need to scooch it over just a little bit. Yeah, scooch that into place better. The nose step. Between this and the Galactica stuff, I don't know where they get this obsession that everybody just wants to walk over top of everything, that they need to have so many decals that say no step. It's like, no kidding. It's a wing. Why would you walk on it? Don't step on it. I get it. Stand clear. No step. Get away. Caution. Do not lean. Moving parts. Just leveling that up. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to turn around and do the other side. Okay, so I'm working down the passenger side from the front to the back, and I'm just putting on the big showy decal now. Ba-boom. And again, using the trailing edge of the door and the bottom edge here as my guide to keep things level and straight. This needs a little bit of water on it because it's such a big decal that to move it around without it ripping or tearing or anything like that, I want to make sure that it is well lubricated. Also, don't use a really sharp X-Acto because that will stab. So let me look at, you know what, that's pretty straight going down. I'd like it to move a little bit in, so let's see if I can move it a little farther forward. Okay, a little bit down. Straighten that edge of the 995 with the bottom edge of that door. And I gotta say, I'm happy with that. Let's squeegee out any air bubbles. We've got the, oops, see this little one has still got a lot of, because it doesn't have as much surface area, it will move around a lot longer. But now that that one's down and I want to get this going as a guide, I want it to be square with the bottom of that straight edge, of this same edge here, and a little bit farther forward than this vent, so that it comes out just a little. It doesn't quite line up with the front edge of that vent. Need a dry Q-tip is what I need. Squeegee that out. Okay, square it up with the bottom edge of the decal and the bottom and that shadow line on the door. Dang it, keeps moving. Beautiful. Let that dry. Push this down, squeegee out. Now all of this carrier film that you still will be able to see between these numbers and letters, that'll all go away once you hit the flat coat on top of this. And that flat coat, if it happens at all, it will be later today. I'm in no mood, like mood has anything to do with it. I am in no rush to get this done. If it's done today, it's done today, but putting that final flat coat on it might be the thing that happens tomorrow. The windows obviously would need to be taped off before I flat coat everything. But I want these decals, particularly these larger ones, give them all the time that they need to settle in. This is next, actually, the Retro 25 needs to go here. I'm wondering if that didn't really need to mean to say Metro. I'm wondering. Just thinking out loud. We'll let that one soak for a while. These are the ones again we don't need. This is the back corner. That is that one there. And then this one is the big one there. So those are the last two to go down. And then I'll have these same redundant Retro 25s. Yeah, I'm going to leave the Retro 25 on there. I'm not going to cut that off yet. But almost done. Okay, so we've got all the decals on. Yay! Except for these optional ones that I want to put on the bottom. This is going to dry for the rest of the day. Did have some cracking here on the big bumper one, and the only reason that happened was because I should have trimmed it a little thin. The surface that it's going on is a little bit thinner than the decal, but not so thin, or yeah, it's thinner, but not so thin that the decal would wrap under it successfully. It just kind of hung there in midair, and if you bumped it, it would crack. So we're going to let that sit, and then once it's really good and dry, I'll come in with an X-Acto and just trim that bottom edge, run an X-Acto over that, and that should take care of it. But everything else is looking mighty fine, and I am very happy with these results. But I am going to let this sit for the rest of the day. I'm going to maybe move this over to the side and do some work on the base, because I still have to figure out how the best method is to stick the base to the top of the tie rail building, the resin base, to the wooden circle that I've got. Hello and welcome back. It is Wednesday. I am waiting, oddly enough, I'm waiting for it to warm up a little bit outside, because I am down to the last of it. Decals went on yesterday. They look marvelous. I let them set up overnight so to take no chances. But I want to put a coat of satin on this. I don't want to put a coat of flat on it, because it's a vehicle. It's a cop car. At this scale, it would not have a flat finish. It would have at least a satin finish. I don't want to go with a high gloss. I think that's just that makes it look like a toy. But a satin finish is what it needs, and primarily to seal in the decals from yesterday. So I've got the windows masked off, and then what I'll do is after I have sprayed this with the satin coat, and the satin coat is dried and all the decals are happy and all that, then I can go back in with a flat paint or a clear flat finish and cover over the things like these tread-like things on the front wheels, things that I want to be flat. I can go back over with a flat finish on, and that'll help them stand out. Also, there is some black scorching that I want to do. I want to do some scorching right around in here. Of course, I want to scorch these nozzles back here, and then I want to do some scorching on the underside. So that will look better flat after, if it's not going on a flat finish. So let's get a satin coat on here. Okay, I'm back. I had a fatality. That I have to address, but all of the ship has been sprayed. It's got the nice semi-gloss all over everything. I lost this decal. It blew off right as soon as I was spraying, and this is one of the handmade or hand-printed decals. This was not one of the professionally made ones. This one stuck for some reason. This one stuck no problem. This was the one that had an issue. So what I'm going to do very simply is just replace it with one of these strips from yesterday that I had left over, one of the caution tape strips. It's just not going to say anything next to it. It'll be our little secret that that's screwed up. And now I am ready to I'm ready to let this dry is what I'm ready to do. But then I need to after this is cured for a bit. I'm getting a little bit of chicken skinning here on these decals. I'm not happy about that, but we're gonna let that be. But the next thing to do would be to go ahead and paint over some of these spots with the dull coat, and at the same time get ready to spray the dull black on the scorches. Actually, at the bottom of this needs to get the, let me see if it needs a gloss coat still. It still has the one from the first time, so it really doesn't need another gloss coat. But I do need to do the flat coat painting on this. So that will be the thing to do the flat coat painting. See, this guy, this is ruined. This is not making me happy at all. This is flaking off. And I don't know wherein the true trouble lies on that. Whether it's worth scraping off and redoing the whole thing, which, as drastic as the case may be, that may be what I have to do, is to scrape that off and reapply it with it up from the one from the other decal sheet. Luckily, I've got a spare for that. This was not how I wanted to spend my Wednesday morning. Yeah, this is just flaking off. So what I need to do is maybe brush more of that off and replace it. Okay, so I've got the back bumper decal scraped off. And I would be, if I didn't have one of these in reserve, I would be, of a completely different mindset about it. But you know what? I was looking at this thing, and it's a big graphic shape. It's just yellow with some zigzags in it. I think I'm going to try to paint that. Because if I just put another decal down, I may be setting myself up for another round of heartbreak that I don't need to be doing. So I think what I'm going to do is I've scanned the one remaining decal that I have, and I'm using that as a pattern to draw off the new one. And I'm going to try my hand at painting. If it doesn't go well, then I've got that decal in reserve. I know this is adding another day to the work, but I'm in no hurry. I got no place else to go, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and paint that yellow, and then I'll be able to put the black stripes over it. I did learn several things about that decal. It should have been cut up into smaller pieces and put on in smaller chunks. I think adding it on the way I did was an error, and I think I should have trimmed down the bottom of it as well. But we've learned those lessons, and the important thing is we are better people because of it. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that and paint it yellow. Well, the yellow is down. Now there will be some of the blue body color that needs to be touched up. That's to be expected. But that's down, and that looks already a heck of a lot better than the decal. So all I got to do is paint a series of little Z's on that. Okay, drink it in. This will probably be the only time you'll see the bottom of this with this much clarity before I put it on the stand. But I've got the black weathering done on top of the semi-gloss blue bodywork, and I think I've got just enough very subtle streakage going on. You have to remember this does spend some time on the ground, so it's going to get some dirt, but not near as much, because like I said, if you've got a flying car, you're going to fly it most of the time. So you can see the yellow here is drying. I was able to respray the body color around there to clean that back up. Not concerned about this bottom edge here. Yeah, I think we're ready to peel the masks off of here. Okay, the glasses, or the tape is off of this glass here. Everything looks great with the possible exception of all the dust bunnies that I see under there. That is areas up under the console here that you really, I wish I'd have painted that better, because you can see the ugliness under the dash there. Even just painting that black would have been better than that. So we're going to have to see. Again, you're not going to spend, this is going to be on the base. You're not going to spend a lot of time staring up underneath it. But still, I wish I'd have been a little bit more cognizant of what you can see looking up through there. Alrighty, I just slathered a bunch of the matte finish here, the matte varnish, on the treads of the tires, the back tires that you can see, and also on these belted things here, and I'm letting those dry. And hopefully you'll be able to see a difference between the flat finish here and the semi-gloss finish. And that leaves the only thing left to do construction wise, which is to put the mirror pieces in. I was holding off until the last coating of the clear spray, and we have passed that point, so I can put these little mirror pieces in the rear view mirrors. Okay, so I've stripped the stripped the masking tape off the windows, so they are in their final shape. The only bit left is the painting of the black Z's on this. We're going to let this dry though for a good long while before we tackle that, and then I will spray it again, and I will mask everything off because I only need to spray just that area, so I can tape that off pretty easily. I'm going to put a final decal here to cover up that bad spot where the decal ripped or disappeared. And I'm not going to try to take this one off. I'm going to leave that here. The symmetry or the asymmetry doesn't bother me there, but it does bug me that there's nothing here. So while I have all of these, I'm going to go ahead and put one of them down. It's not going to take any time to do that. The black here is drying, and as it's drying it is becoming flat. The mirrors are in there and there. Yes, the doors open, and now when the doors are open you can see down through. Hello. Which means it's going to be fun once I turn those lights back on, because you're going to be able to see those lights up through the bottom of the bottom of the cockpit. Now where I am bugging is that the bottom sides of the dashboard, the bottom parts of these dashboards have got dust on them, and that's what I'm seeing through the windows, through the bottom windows, and it's making me nuts. So I'm going to see if I maybe get some compressed air in a can and do a spritz inside there and see if I can blow some of that out. But these decals have all been filled in. I mean, they've got a coat of clear over them. I think I may want to put a bit of clear, and I may have to paint that in manually. That may have to be the gloss varnish just in this area here, because that did not get a spray. And these windows are collecting a lot of static. I mean, the dust that's on there is attracted by the static cling, and that's why you are seeing that. So I might take another rag and kind of a damp rag and clean those windows off from the inside and from the outside to keep those clean. But at this point it's just static electricity. So let me get that gloss varnish. I'm going to just put some gloss varnish on a brush and paint it down on that area to give it a bit of a shine. And I'll block these doors open so this gets a chance to dry before we shut the door on them. Okay, we're ready for the next step, and I fully admit, I will freely stand up and proudly proclaim that this has the potential of getting very confusing. And the reason it's going to get confusing is because you have yellow masking material that is going to be going over the bumper, which has been painted yellow, and then we will be painting black through the holes in the yellow masking. So yeah, it's making sure that this is sitting right is going to be confusing, but you can see, hopefully, if I've got the camera turned around right, you can see these are the holes that will that match the black detail. You know, if I was really lazy, I could have just painted this black and stuck this over top of it, but that wouldn't look right. That would be wrong. So what I would like to do, now that these sills have dried, I can go ahead and take the door jambs out of the way and close these up, because I need to turn this in such a way that I can see that whole bumper. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, if you can see the differences between the two yellows, I've got this mask in place. I'm ready to put some black in the brush, and I'll have to, like in areas like this, I'll have to hold the card up so that I don't have to worry about putting tape over the decals. But yeah, that's just how it's got to have to be sprayed. Okay, so I've got the black sprayed on, and you'll note that it has quite a confined area, because I was using the tape but also holding a card up around it while I painted. Now this what I was calling a zigzag pattern, that kind of looks like a tire tread pattern too. So we're going to see just how it turned out, and I'm going to do this live on the air. Ooh, so far so good. Look at that. Best not to leave the masking on any longer than you need to. But there you go. Painted on and not a decal. I should do that more often. Okay, last bit of detail for today is I just put a black wash over this this silver detailing here to give that a little bit more life. Let's see what else. I did a silver dry brush over those little repulsors. I'm still kicking myself. I should never have wasted time putting that decal down to begin with. I should have just painted that back bumper from day one. I should have just thought that I was just going ahead and planned to do that. I don't know why it didn't occur to me till after I had problems with it, but it looks so much better painted. So what we're going to do is we are going to let this dry for a while longer. Obviously, I still would like to touch that up. That blue is coming out kind of green there, I got a little bit of yellow overspray there I want to take care of. But the last thing to do is basically tarp this whole front off and spray a clear coat over top of the bumper that was painted and this replacement decal here. And then it's ready to put on the stand and be called a done thing. Hello everybody, it's Thursday, it's the gateway to the weekend. And yes, we're still working on the spinner. I had expected to be long done by now. But I have to say it's not been time wasted, or it's all been in the service of improving things and making it better, and you know, doing what you can do and taking the time that it takes. Pardon me, I'm just straightening up here. Yesterday we did some important work. We replaced that big honkin' decal. We repainted that bumper. And today there's only one last thing to do, and that is to go over the car one more time with a black soot pass, because what happened yesterday when I repainted the bumper, that I clear coated it, the black sooting here became glossy. It wasn't flat anymore. So I'm going to resoot that with some black. I'm going to retouch this chrome silver bit with the Molotov, because that itself got dirty, or got dulled down by that final coat. And then we're ready to put this thing up on the base and light it up and call it done. I'm very happy with how the flat coat painting makes the tire, or makes these treads. I think they're treads. They look like some sort of track belt. I don't know if that's ever what they were intended to do, but that's what they look like. That the flat coat on that makes them look flat like it should be, like I think it should be. We're ready to stand this thing up on its power jack and see how she's going to look. Now, yesterday I did some work on the base as well. I got it glued down to the piece of wood. I put the felt on the bottom of the piece of wood, and that's usually a good sign that we are darn close to finishing. You can see we've got the two switches in the base. So really, then we're going to give this one last pass with the finest of fine-tooth combs, and then we are going to put it on the base and call it done. Now, do I put the video up today or not? Or do I just hang on to it and put it up Friday like I normally do? I don't know. I haven't thought that far. But yeah, we're ready. I'm ready to call this thing done. That's for sure. Yeah, I want to take some video of this, not only to prove that it existed at one point in time, but to show that I did find one balancing point that I could turn this thing upside down and not have it resting on the lights up here. It's actually resting on the very front point of the post that sticks up. But I flipped this over and I was appalled by how much sloppiness I could see, and I needed to adjust. I needed to take care of it. So while I was putting the black dusting or the black sooting on the underside of this, I opened up both doors so that I could like paint the bottom sides of the doors, that kind of stuff that was sticking out and like a sore thumb and obviously needing some tending to. But I'm going to let this blue dry, and then I have to go. What happened is I saw a lot of overspray slop from the bumper that I painted yesterday, so I had to go back in and repaint that. But primarily my interest here is to let all of this dry and then go back over it one last time with the black sooting, and then it shall be done. Now, if I had this whole model to do over again, I would have paid more attention to what you can see through the bottom windows. That's my fault. Well, everything to do with this build is either my credit or my fault, and I'll take the fault where it is. I taped over those so that they wouldn't get scratched up or get any sort of paint on them, but it also blocked the view of what you were able to see through those. So I should have, like, you know, before I closed up everything, I should have done one last look and said, what can you see through those bottom windows? Because it is quite messy under there, and a lot of that is schmutz and dust that I cannot get. It's on the underside of the dashboard, and I just can't, without getting in there with a can of compressed air and a tight nozzle, I don't think I can blow any of that stuff out. So I might look into getting a can of that today if I'm out. But that's of course, it's going to be on a stand. You're not going to see it from underneath, and I'm happy to know that. That's no good. I just saw a broken wire here that needs to be fixed. This is something that you need to do when you are nuts. Okay, I'm going to have to fix that wire. I'm glad I found that now before I tried plugging everything in. So, lessons learned right and left. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's all done. Yes, you can tell by the fact that I brought out the starry background that I've had a lot of time to get this ready. So here you go. We'll walk you through the switches. That turns it. Let's turn everything off first. Oh, you'll never guess who showed up. I was turned around, and all of a sudden this thing was sitting here. So I don't know who's been visiting me. But here you go. It's on the stand. Of course, the first switch turns on the main lights. You haven't seen this since I have painted it, but you maybe can't tell now with it on, but that's got a red and yellow tint to the bottom of it. That looks very nice. And of course you hit the other big switch, and it turns on all the police lights. We have the full Christmas tree going on upstairs. And if you go underneath, trying to make this camera move as smooth as possible, let's see. Let's start under here. There you can see the two sets of waggy lights on the bottom, on the back there, and you can see them up front as well. There's the up front ones. Now for the party piece, as it were. Open up the door and you can see what's going on with the interior. Not only the main lighting there, but that secondary purge light that's over here further. And you can see down through the floor pan, as you can see some of the waggy lights going on through the floor pan, as you are designed to do. And there you see now, of course, no lighting in the that secondary stock of monitors. Let me close this back. Well, I'll leave it open. No lighting in this secondary stock here. But I think everything turned out nicely. There, that's probably the best view of all the monitors. If you were driving this thing, you would see. Now, people have asked about putting figures in here, but I have to tell you that there ain't no room. I would have had to have sculpted or re-sculpted or done something to make that seat dip down in the front so that you could put poor Gav's legs under there. Now, the weight of a person would obviously deform that, and you could make that argument, but there's just no room for any people in there. And even though it looks like it's flying with the windows open, with the doors open, I still think if you put people in there, you would have lost a lot of detail that you would have never been able to see. I'm going to spin this around and open the other door. There you can see the other set of lights through the floorboard. And the more open cockpit on this side. And the nice painted bumper. This is what I redid today, is I re-scorched those, as well as adding some more dirt to the bottom of the car. Well, there you go. A finished Randy Cooper spinner. And of course the headlights here and the lights on the front wheels. I did those so long ago you kind of forget about them, but yeah. And thanks again to the wonderful people at Evans Designs for the custom work they did on the waggy lights, and to the strobe circuit from Ralph over at Ralph Tenaglia over at Tenna Controls. But this will take a point of pride in the collection and a place of great relevance and reverence. Who knows, it may even show up at a show here or there before it's all said and done. And that, gentle beings and fellow replicants, is where we are going to finish this project. It's been a 5-week journey to finish, or to build from start to finish, this Randy Cooper spinner. Been a lot of neat troubleshooting and problem solving on it, which is my favorite kind of model making. I mean, there's something to be said for the ease of a Bandai kit, where you just shake the box and it comes out. But by the same token, you don't want to have to whittle every piece from a block of wood either. So somewhere in the middle, something that's just complicated enough that you can add your own spin, on it. I see what I did there with the spin. Like I said, this is a kit that's been in my stash for a while, and the advent of the small SMLED lights is really what made this possible, that and the strip lights, because I just didn't have any interest in trying to shove a bunch of 3mm bulbs in here. The smaller bulbs will do just fine. And that allowed me the latitude to get all of the circuitry in and all that. The interesting thing is, of course, Randy has extensive reference pictures on the CD that you get with the model, and in his own build, you see this big chunky circuit board taking up a good piece of real estate at the back of the ship. And I realized in the time it's taken from the time he built his to this, that all of that is shrunk down now to, well, Ralph's board is 3/4 of an inch square. The lights from Evans Designs, they aren't even on a circuit board really. They're just bundled together with some shrink wrap. So we really have come a long way on that. And the strip lighting, so much more efficient than and easier to light up long skinny areas than running a series of LEDs. But you saw all that. I'm just waxing nostalgic. You saw all that. So until next time, when who knows what we're going to build. I really don't have that much of a clue, but I've got the whole weekend to figure it out. I'm going to close this up early, put it up on a Thursday, shock everybody who's waiting for the Saturday morning to watch it, and then just take tomorrow off. Now, that's not entirely true. Not entirely true. After, I don't know how many months, I'd have to go back. It's probably close to a year now. But after quite a few months, the rightful owner of the Valley Forge is coming to pick it up. So I am probably going to be spending this weekend building a framework for it to fit in so that it will transport without any damage, hopefully, but at least minimal damage. So if that looks like it's going to be an interesting enough project, I may film some of that and put it up as a little Aztek bonus. It's not really building, but it's something you have to think about sometimes. So until next time, whatever it is I'm building, whatever it is we are going to be tackling, y'all be good to each other, be safe, be smart, be back here next time.